Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I make videos about quilting and my creative life. Anywhere that you can find me is listed down in the description box, and you can stay up to date with what I'm making on Instagram and TikTok pretty much daily. And today I'm coming on with a highly requested tutorial on how I hand sew my hexagons for this project that I'm making that's on the wall behind me. So you can just see up there, I've got it right at the top. And I've shown this to you in a previous video and you all said that you wanted to see a tutorial. So this is hand sewn, there's no papers involved, and it is a really easy method to sew shapes together by hand. I think that it's easier on my hands in terms of hand strain and things like that compared to English paper piecing. So that's why I prefer it, and I do think it's a little bit quicker. So what I'm going to do now is show you how I do these shapes, and at the end I will show you how to press them, because that's the only extra step I think that's involved with this, is that with English paper piecing you don't really have to iron it, do you? But with this you do need to iron it to help the seams lay flat and nest together nice and neat. So that will also be at the end of the video as well. So leave me a comment, let me know how you got on, and if you do enjoy this video don't forget to subscribe to see more of my projects. So here is just a closer look at the block and the type of stitching. So you can't see any of the stitching on the front, and then when we turn it over the seams look like this, and then the stitching, it's very small, you can just see the stitching catching the light. It's done with a running stitch, and because you don't stitch into the seam allowance like you do with regular quilting, you would go straight off the edge, wouldn't you? That's why these stand a little bit proud and they just need to be ironed in a certain way, so I will show you that. But yeah, so let's get started. The first thing that you'll need, especially if you're doing a shape like a hexagon, you won't need this if you're doing a square or something, is some templates. So the ideal template is this one with a window, but these are a little bit harder to find. There are some places that specialise in them online, but these are some that are by Clover, and they're very thin. I don't think they're designed for cutting because they do have quite a bit of flex in them. So what I also had in my stash is these templates. You can still use these ones for this technique, but it's a little bit more annoying, and I'll show you why. But these are great for cutting. So both of these are the same size, and I'll show you how to use both of the templates. I do have a video on different templates for hand piecing, so I'll leave the link to that down in the description box, and that might give you some inspiration on where you can get the templates from. So I've already used my templates to cut out a bunch of hexagons. These are 2-inch hexagons, so they cut at 2.5 by the time you've added the seam allowance. Oh, I think I'll use that one. That's one of my favourite liberties. We'll go with that. And also that one, I like that one. So I'll demonstrate with those two for you. So what you need to do now is draw a stitching line, because as with these, it's got a little stitching line, and that will help you keep a consistent 1/4 inch, because it's quite hard to stitch in a straight line without any type of guide, and that's where this comes in useful. Now, a lot of people will use a very fine sandpaper underneath their fabric to stop it shifting, and this has barely any, I was taking my rough skin off, this has barely any abrasive qualities to it. I think that's the grit, 600 grit. It's very, very fine. It's not going to ruin your fabric or anything. So just lay your fabric face down and place your template over the top. Get it so it's centered on all the sides. And then you just want to draw. This is just a standard mechanical pencil. It doesn't have any issues. Hold your template still and draw all the way around. You can see the advantage of this template straight away, can't you? It just allows you to draw that line really quickly. Whereas if you use this type of template, you need to put it down over the top, draw a dot in each corner, and then you'll then need to draw a straight line connecting those dots. It's not impossible, it's just a little bit more time consuming. So if this is all you have in your stash or all you have access to, it is worth using. If you've followed me for a while, you'll know that I have this. This is a 1/4 inch ruler. I think it's made by Clover. I'll try and leave a link to it. So if you get any like pre-cut shapes, you can buy pre-cut hexagon fabrics, can't you? For example, you can simply use this just to draw all the way around. If you wanted to, you've got something like this. It can just be easier just to lay that on top of your fabric and just draw all the way around. That is handy, especially if you're going to do squares. That one is perfectly good. So take that up. This is my little finger pin cushion. It just really helps keep your pins accessible. So what you need to do is position 2 of the fabrics right sides together, and the joy of cutting with the templates is you'll line the raw edge up, take a pin and pop it through the first corner that you can see, push it all the way through and check on the back, are you at the corner? So I'm not there, so pull it out a tiny bit and then just shuffle the fabric around. There, I'm right in the corner, so just place your pin. On a shape this big, I like to put 2 pins, just so you don't get any type of slipping. Yeah, and I am on the line there. On this tutorial, I'm going to use green thread, so I hope that you can see it a little bit better, but your thread will show through the seam allowance, especially if you're working with Liberty, because it's a little bit thinner. So don't use black, just try and coordinate it as best you can. With this, I just use white throughout, that doesn't matter, but if you're going to use like a really dark colour on light fabric, it will show. So I like a slightly longer needle. For most of my sewing, I use a size 11 millimeter needle, so I think that's what this is. It'll be a 10 or 11. So go through right on the corner. You can start in a little bit. So with your first stitch, come in just maybe 1/8 of an inch away from the corner and push your needle all the way through and make sure that you're starting away from the corner again. And this is just so your knot isn't right in the corner. It will just reduce a little bit of bulk. Now you want to stitch into the corner, and there we go, and then just start stitching all the way across the line. So you want your stitches to be about 1/8 of an inch wide, but you can go slightly bigger. The more you get into the hang of it, your smaller your stitches will be. Let me bring you in a bit closer. I'll try and get the light to catch the needle so you can see. And all you're going to do is a running stitch with a little bit of a rocking motion. So this finger behind, I push the fabric in front and then just push the needle through like that. And if you want to, every stitch, you can turn your work to make sure you're on the right, that you're on the line front and back. Let me take that finger cushion off because it's getting in the way. So check your, so push your needle through, check you're on the line, come back through on the line and check you're coming through on the line. Yep. So there we go. I generally load up 4 or 6 stitches at a time, but just for this demonstration I'll do that and pull through. You don't want to pull tight to where you can see the fabric bunching up. You want it to be nice and smooth, because otherwise you'll have puckers on the front. And now I take a small back stitch, so just go to the end of the last stitch, pull that tight because I've just loosened it, and come up. And then you're just going to repeat that process like so. I am just on the back. I push the needle against my finger there. I think you can probably just about see that. So I'm not going really far. My finger is literally pushing the fabric from the back to create this little bit of a rocking motion. Remove your pins as you go. And just keep rocking back and forth. See, that stitch was too tiny. I have caught at the back, but you can check with every stitch that you're on the right track, or just every once in a while turn it over and check. I like to check before I pull the stitch through and do the back stitch, because also like I said, I'm conscious of trying to reduce hand strain, and if you're going like this all the time and rotating your wrist with every single stitch, soon enough you'll probably create issues with your wrist. So to try and prevent hand strain, I just check before I pull it through to do the back stitch. So once we're there, just pull it through. This green thread actually blends in very well with this fabric, so I am sorry. I thought I was choosing something that might stand out a little bit more than white. So all the way across over to the back edge. So it is just a very simple running stitch, and I think you can probably see why it doesn't have as much hand strain as English paper piecing, because you're not constantly pulling your thread like that. And then once you get to your end, you can see here that I'm probably one stitch away from the end. So what I do is I push my thread through, come out on the corner, flip my work over to check I'm on that corner as well. Pull your needle all the way through. Come back through a little bit away from the edge. And now you're going to do a back stitch here just to make it nice and secure. Even if I'm not cutting the thread, I still like to do a back stitch before I start the next piece. And if I am going to cut my thread, I do two light knots. So I'm going to pass the needle through twice. I don't think once is secure enough. So pull that through, put your finger on top of it and just pull it. And then I do another one of those, just passing it through once. There we go. And then you can cut your thread. I know that some people just do back stitches without doing those little locking knots, but I prefer to lock the stitches. And then what you do, fold it out and you've got a nice join, and then you can either just finger press it or use a seam roller. I just run my finger along it. It's a little bit easier with Liberty because it creases a little bit neater, but if you're not using Liberty, you're using regular quilting cotton, then you just use a seam roller. And then what you'll do is you'll go on to join the rest. I like to lay out my seven hexagons in a colour orientation that I like, draw all of my lines and then just do it all in one go. But let me show you how you join another one on. So here's a hexagon flower that I prepared earlier, and I'll show you how to deal with those little intersections now. So what I'll do is I'll start stitching, and then when we get to there, I'll show you how to deal with that. With this quilt, I'm not going for any type of like contrast or anything. That's why they are all quite samey prints, and I'm just going for a really nice wash of pastels all across the quilt. Oh, actually, I've got to do here first. So let me sew that seam in exactly the same way, and then I'll show you how to deal with an intersection of 3 coming together here. So I'm going to join this one to here. So again, flip it over and hold it right sides together. I prefer to work from the majority of the project, so I'll be starting stitching here and going this way, so I don't need to add a pin there, but you can do if you want to. So position it to roughly where you think, and then go in to this corner, and then I'm slightly out on that corner, so just pull the pin out and readjust. Don't worry that this is now out of line, just adjust it down. Pull everything down. So there we go. So you pin at the intersection exactly as I've shown, and then just start stitching all the way down to the intersection, and when I get to here, I'll show you what I do. So I'm right on, I've got one stitch left to do, so I'm going to take my pin out, and then I'm going to again take my last stitch and come up right on the corner. Check that you're there on the back, which I am. So here you're just going to do a back stitch and then pass your thread through the loop. Pull it tight. That's just to lock it, just to give the intersection a little bit of strength. So now open this out and move it across so that it lays correct. And again, you're just going to do the same thing, pin it out, pin right into the intersection. Oh, and as luck would have it, I'm right on the corner, so push the pin straight down. Right on the line. So now we've got 3 seams intersecting here. I like to travel through all the seams on a Y seam to make them a little bit more secure. So let's say your thread wasn't already on this hexagon. Let's say you were starting here. I try and make sure that my thread passes through all of those 3 fabrics to make it nice and secure. So this one I'm already starting here, but if your thread was broke, I still would start here. So I'm going to go straight in the corner. And when I do this, I like to come up again 1/8 of an inch, just so I can do a locking stitch right into the corner. So there we go. And now go down into the corner and come out bang on this front corner. Pull everything nice and secure, and then you can do another stitch quite close and put a little locking stitch in there. And then simply start stitching. So stitch all the way across, and then you just repeat the same process at the other end. So again, just checking that I'm on the line. There's a line that I've accidentally drawn above. It is the line that I'm stitching on. Sometimes you might be like a hairline out, like there, look, I was a hairline out. Overall, it's not going to make a huge difference, you know, but you don't want to be like way down, as long as you're going in pretty much a straight line, because these are kind of on the bias, because they're hexagons, it will all just stretch into place anyway. You've got a little bit of give, haven't you, when it comes to fabric. But it is important to add these little back stitches just to make everything really nice and secure. I hope you can see the thread okay. I know that you can see the needle catching the light there, so you can see just how big or small the stitches need to be. It can be quite difficult to get something this small into focus. But as you can see, to form these stitches, I'm not doing a lot of hand movements at all. I am pushing with my thumb. If you find that a little bit slippy or tricky, try one of these silicone thimbles. That's what I do. It's not really a thimble, it's more of a needle grip, and it does help you push the needle through and reduce any pressure. But I didn't want to use that for the video because it's a little bit bulky, you can't see it, but I would usually have that on. But there's not a lot of movement, and you're not having to hold anything very tight really. So you might find this easier, because I know a lot of people have said that English paper piecing also causes them a little bit of hand strain. So right, I'm going to finish this off, and I will then show you how to iron the hexagons. So once you're ready to iron, we always do it from the back so that you can control the seams. And what we need to do is nest them. So it just involves manipulating the seams. So what you need to do is the centre one comes down, so we can iron that in place. This needs to go across, because then the next centre one needs to go up, and then this bit opens. You don't open any of the seams because that would make them a little bit weaker, so keep them closed. So it's just like that. This one goes down, this one goes up, so this one goes down. Open that point there, and then that will tell you that needs to go across. So that's gone down, this one needs to go up, so push it up, this needs to go over. If you're unsure, just put your finger in there and it will open. As long as the one's radiating round up, down, it will be fine. So that's how they should look nested together. And then once you've flattened the back, just flip it over and give everything a press, mainly just to get the wrinkles out. And there you go, you have a perfectly flat block. So I'm just going to repeat this process with the next one that I've done. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Like I said, leave me a comment if you have any questions or if you've tried this technique. I would love to hear what projects you've made. And until next time, take care and bye bye.